So you need to build a fire. And best to remember that fire takes three elements. The heat source, something to burn, and oxygen. Take away any one of those things and you cannot build fire. If you have enough heat and oxygen, you can burn almost anything, wet wood, whatever. But if you're out looking and you're lost and you need to build a fire, you need to start with an ignition source, which would be some type of combustible lighter. And if you're in a situation where you need fire quickly, I think you need to have a good, dependable ignition source. But if you look at see how easy those snap and break off, that's really dry wood. And if you start with stuff about this big, 1/8 of an inch and bigger, and gather a bunch of it, that would be the start. That's what you need to do. But this whole limb here fell off of a tree and it's all nice and dry, and you can get the small stuff and you can get the big stuff. You build yourself a pile, you put your ignition source on it, light her up, start small. We'll go over this exactly what you need to do and how to start it. But you might be in the desert, you might have pinyon, pine, or juniper, sagebrush, anything. But these sticks are really super dry and they start on fire really easy. Even if you had some rain or snow, these things, you can see how easy they break off. This is what you're looking for. This, pine needles, these happen to be ponderosa pine needles. There's bark here, and most of this stuff underneath these trees stays pretty dry, even if you're in a rainstorm or a snowstorm. You dig down a little bit, find some dry stuff. That's how it starts. And things like this are really dry. They've actually got a little pitch in them. And then you build up and you try to find bigger pieces of wood to keep your fire going. That's pitch. That's been there a long time and it's full of pitch. And pitch is okay, but it's kind of like wax. It needs an ignition source in it. So like pine needles or grass or anything dry, you mix it in with that and that'll get your fire going. These will burn, but it's better to find some that, like we had on our first stick over here, that actually are dry. This is an excellent ignition source. This is a ponderosa pine needles. Excellent ignition source. They don't burn too long, but they burn really quickly and hot. So that's what you're after. Trying to get some really small sticks, really brittle small sticks like that. And like I said, even if they're wet, if you have a good ignition source, a good fire source, and a fire starter, and we'll go over that, you can start a fire. So the next thing you consider, I would imagine, is one, where do I stop? Well, sometimes you're forced into that. You got to stop where you stop because it's getting dark. But if you have time, probably want to be out of a creek bottom. Usually get a lot of breeze in a creek bottom unless you have something to cover you with to stop the wind, you're going to be a lot colder than you would, say, a couple hundred yards up off the creek bottom on a south or east facing slope. So the next thing, after you've gathered all your sticks and stuff and little limbs, you want to look for something like this. This is an old dead log that years ago, I think probably they cut it in half just so it would rot quicker. But that's good firewood and it'll last a long time. So this will probably last you through the night. And also, it's not on a bad slope and it can burn the length of the log slowly. So you won't have to get up in the middle of the night 6 times and add wood to your fire. So as you can see, there's lots of stuff to burn out here. Even when it's snowy or wet, this will burn. Might be wet on the outside, get a little time to get it going and burning properly. But find a place that's close to your fire or that's kind of level. Or the other thing we haven't talked about is when you decide to bed down for the night, you might have your back to a tree or you might decide to lay on the ground. Dig a little hole for your bottom. Something for your bottom to rest in out. Just a little shallow depression makes you a lot more comfortable. So we're going to go through a little fire building exercise here, but you can see there's lots of things you can build fires with. Well, here we are. What I'm going to show you today is how to build a fire, but also, more importantly, I think, is a little ditty bag that you can carry with you wherever you go. And it fits in this 1-quart Ziploc. So you can put it in your fanny pack or your little belly pack or whatever, your man purse or a small backpack, or sometimes you'd stick it in your pouch on your sweatshirt and go for a walk. It's real easy to have, it's real easy to carry, and it doesn't cost very much. This is simply a 55-gallon leaf bag, long leaf bag. This one's probably 6 mils. That thing can basically be your raincoat. It could be your shelter in a quick rainstorm or lightning storm. It happens all the time in the mountains, and so you should be prepared for that. Always have with you 1, preferably 2 headlamps. Headlamps is better than a flashlight because it leaves your hands free to do something. Always carry some type of knife. You can carry the 12-inch Bowie if you want to. This is a little simple knife that performs lots of functions. Piece of rope, any kind of rope. This is smaller stuff than 550 cord. I don't know, it'd probably support 100 pounds or so. And this is the most important thing, and I suggest that you carry at least 2 of these. 1 in your pocket of your jeans or whatever you're wearing, and 1 in your fanny pack or your ditty bag. That is really important. Here's some extra batteries that you probably should have along for your headlamp. You can have a rechargeable headlamp if you want, but to be honest with you, if you're in the wilderness and your batteries run out and your headlamp and you have no way to recharge them, having extra batteries is really important. And like I said, it just fits right in a little 1-quart Ziploc. Put it in there, and this is the other thing that you have to have, and you're ready to go. It's that simple. Now, a lot of other things you can carry depending on the weather and where you're going, how long you're going to be staying, all that stuff. We're talking about fire here in a little ditty bag to basically keep you alive. I will say this, if you're going to hike off the road or in the wilderness for an extended time, stay away from manufactured fibers, nylon and polypropylene and those kinds of things, because they ignite really easily and they will burn you horribly. A lot of natural fibers out there like cotton, wool, different types of wool. They've come a long way in advancing what wool is. It's more comfortable, it's easier to wear, it wicks moisture away from your body, and basically it dries out super fast. Now, you want to carry polypropylene underwear or spandex walking shorts or whatever you have, that's fine. Just keep in mind that if you're going to build a fire, keep that away from your stuff. So, we're talking about cheap here. All this stuff that I have probably doesn't cost more than 20 bucks. This is an ignition source as well as the wood that you're burning. What this does is this takes that flame and turns it into something that basically will start your wood on fire. So as you all know, you've been around a while and you know, what does it take to build a fire? What are the three things that fire needs? Well, one is it needs something to burn. That's really important, obviously. It needs an ignition source, and we'll call that ignition source a flame or something hot that combusts. And so all this is cotton and Vaseline, okay? So it's an easy thing to do. It costs almost nothing. You can get a bag of cotton balls and a jar of Vaseline. It'll last you a lifetime. I've packed this with me for 20, 30 years, and it always works. So that goes in the bag. So what you want to do with your fire is you want to gather up a pile of sticks, okay? And what I like to do is, because it gets your fire starter, I guess is what you'd call it, or ignition source, whatever. And I lay 2 little sticks down, and if it's snowing or it's cold or rainy, you might want to put some of these little sticks underneath your ignition source, which is your Vaseline, your cotton. Obviously, fires need air. This allows air to come into your fire. And also, it's underneath the sticks. And these sticks you can get anywhere. I just picked these up off the ground right around here where this rock is. I put the tinfoil down because I don't want to stain the rock in any way or anything. So, ignition source, flame, something to burn, which is wood and oxygen. That's all it takes. So, this is a real simple little deal, and like I said, it's really expensive, but here we go. So, that's your cotton ball. And the biggest thing about building fire is be patient. Take your time, get little sticks up here. And another thing, always shut the wind so the smoke's not blowing in your face. That would be really good. But as you can see, it starts a fire really easy. And again, be patient, because let that wood dry out completely till it starts combusting. And then all you do is, if you've got all your sticks and stuff ready here beside your fire, you just keep adding to it. And the next thing you know, you've got a fire. Okay, and as your fire burns, it'll fall down in there, it'll create coals and heat and keep things burning. And so if you got a big piece of live wood like this, the bark might be a little bit wet, you put it on there. It'll dry out and it'll start burning. But anyway, see how I can put stuff on top of here and the air can still get in from the bottom. You need air to combust. And that's your fire. And that's a simple way to go about building any fire. Obviously, if you're in a really wet situation, you can still find tinder underneath trees, especially thick fir trees or spruce trees or whatever kind of trees you have. There's usually a bunch of detritus buildup. That's basically stuff that comes off the trees. That's what the forest floor is made of. And you can see this fire is going really good. And it's really that simple. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. There's a lot of products out there that are expensive that do the same thing as the cotton ball and the vasectomy. You buy little box of little starter cubes on fire. You could build your own. There's 100 ways online to basically build a fire and what you can use. Candle wax and lint, all kinds of things that will burn. But like I said, your ignition source, you need to kind of tailor to where you're going to be going. If you're going into the snow, you're going to have to go hunting for wood that's dry. But you'll always be able to find it. You might have to dig a little bit. Sounds funny, but get underneath that ice and snow or rain, and there's dry sticks and stuff underneath it. The limbs and basically the needles of dead fir trees and spruce trees and pine trees will burn really well. So there it is in a nutshell. If you got any questions, holler at me. I'll be happy to answer any questions about building fire and what time of year you're going and what you need to look for. But one of the other things that nowadays it's really simple to do and it's really effective, look at the weather before you go. Because if you're going to have 5 days of rain, you need to be prepared for it. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. There's your fire. Papa's Mountain, bumpinthenight.com. See ya.